I was coming back from lunch. My lunchtime is usually around 1:30, 2 o'clock. Okay, because dinner for most gymnasts, is like 9 o'clock at night, right? Okay. Stephanie was walking out to do a bus run. There's no one left in the gym. Okay, she didn't want to lock it up, so she kind of passed me in the parking lot and said, "There's a guy in there who coming in wants to teach level 6 through 10."
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that was my introduction to Robb. Okay. He's standing in the hallway there, and he just walked in. I didn't know where he came from, and he said, "Yes, I want to teach levels 6 through 10." Okay. Of course, I've heard that before from a lot of different people, so I was just going, "Yeah, okay." Okay. Everybody wants to teach 6 through 10. They don't want to go teach rec. They don't come in teaching preschool. They want to teach the optional level. So I introduced myself. We talked for a little bit, and he came into the Nashville or Hendersonville area for another job opportunity, and he was there for a week or so and found out that's not where he wanted to be. Okay, so he looked elsewhere, and I happened to be the one. In fact, I think his words were, I was getting my hair cut at Supercuts in Gallatin, okay, and talking to somebody, and somebody said, "You need to go to the Masters." Okay, is that correct?
Yeah. I was at Sports Clips in Henderson. Yeah, and I met this one. I'll figure out her name. It's a very unique name, so it kind of stuck with me, but I forgot it. But yeah, so I was at Sports Clips on Tuesday, and I was sitting there, and with everything that's happened in the past few weeks, I just thought in my head that I just want to like be in a gym atmosphere again and kind of get that feeling back. So I was sitting there telling this lady what I did as like a recruiter and stuff like that, and she's like, "Well, you need to go to the Masters," and I was like, "Well, what is the Masters?" And she was like, "It's in Hendersonville, like just a mile from here." So I get my hair cut, and I get my car, and I get to thinking, so I get on my phone, and within like seconds I find the Masters. So I click drive and just drove straight here. And what was her name in the office? Stephanie, yeah. And she kind of looked at me, and she was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I used to coach in Kentucky, and I left for a job opportunity. And like you said, I know what I want to do in life, and I know what I want to coach, and that's about it. But gymnastics is my passion. I guess I'll just get into my background really quick.
I'll let him get into his background. Needless to say, our conversation was about an hour and a half because I had to move on, and I told him, because I wanted to see what he knew. Okay. So I had Tessa come in on Wednesday at 1 in the afternoon, okay, and I had her just do a skill, and the key elements to me were, I understand how the skill is supposed to be. I understand how the skill is supposed to look to get the kid to do the thing. But not many coaches really understand how to get that child to do those things. It's one thing to understand the skill. It's one thing to understand how I can break it down into infinitesimal small pieces. And if you saw him today, he knows how to do that. So I was convinced after Wednesday that we need to pursue employment here. And so he can tell you about his background.
So it's gonna sound crazy, but so my name is Robb Fowler. I'm from Boone, Iowa. So most people, when I talk to kids, they're like, "Where's Iowa?" They have no idea. But I refer to Chow's because a lot of kids know Chow's in the gymnastics world. So I trained at Chow's when I was younger. That's kind of where I started, and that was at the very beginning stages. And I quit there when there was it got flooded out, and they were actively building their new gym. So I went to a place called Success Gymnastics in Ames, Iowa. So if anyone's familiar with Iowa, there's Des Moines, Iowa, which is like center, and then there's Ames, Iowa, which is about 35 miles north of there. And I live 12 miles from Ames. So I would drive back and forth 45 miles to Chow's and back for gymnastics. So when that flood happened,
and it may be flooded right now.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but when that happened, my parents were like, "We're not going to drive you anymore." I have an identical twin brother, and he played baseball. And so they were like, "You're going to play baseball instead of do gymnastics." And I was like, "Well, I don't want to play baseball. I want to do gymnastics." And so that was a pivotal point. I was 14, and I chose to clean mats to continue my gymnastics career because I loved it that much. And my body was growing, and I was a kid, I didn't know, right? And so I switched to Success Gymnastics, and I was there for about 4 years, and I got to my junior year of high school, and I quit. Just like most people because they think that they can't do it, right? And I regret that day so much because I thought I could do something that I wish I could have done, and then I just backed out of it. And I just wish I could have kept going. But that's kind of where I started at in Iowa. And then I went to power tumbling because it was cheaper. My parents were like, oh, just do that route, right? So then I got into power tumbling, and that taught me kind of body awareness on like trampolines. And I was never on a trampoline before. So like the double mini and the trampoline and the rod floor. So at a young age, I learned gymnastics. And then I went to power tumbling. So I had to learn gymnastics first, then power tumbling with the body awareness. And then from there, I still was not happy. And I tried out at the University of Iowa for their gymnastics team, and I didn't make it. I was devastated. And that was my senior year of high school, senior year. And as we know in gymnastics, like they start earlier now. It's getting earlier and earlier, right, as we recruit. And I didn't know that back then because I just wasn't big into it. But with that, I didn't make the team, but there was a recruiter sitting there from UK, and she's like, "You're gonna be a cheerleader." I was like, "No, I'm sorry, man. Like, I'm not a cheerleader. I'm a gymnast, but thank you for the compliment." And she's like, "You have the look, you have the charisma, and the talent, and all stuff like that." And I was like, "Well, I've never cheered a day in my life." And so what happened was, she brought this little girl over. She was 9 years old, and her name was Brooke Hinders. And she's like, "Throw my daughter in the air," and I'm like. I'm not a big guy, so I was like, I can't throw your daughter in the air, right? And as a kid, my parents always told me I had a keen eye, and I never knew what that meant, but it was just like, I would see the small details in things. And so I watched some other people do it, and when I saw it, I was like, there's no way. I doubted myself. I was like, I cannot do that. And so I just tried, and I'd be like, just trying. It was not natural for me like gymnastics was. And so I just kept with it because I didn't want to give up. Like I had given up in gymnastics, and I was like, I told myself I would never give up after that day that I quit. And so I kept with it. Well, this woman, she paid for me to go to a camp in Kentucky, and it was 12 hours from where I was in Iowa to Kentucky, so it's far. And I get a call from my mom. She's like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I'm in Kentucky." Like she had no idea that I was going to a clinic there that someone had paid for. And does anyone know about Kentucky cheerleading? Mm-hmm. You do? Okay, so I didn't know this at the time, but they were like the most elite cheerleading program out there, like in all of cheerleading, okay? And so I went to UK on a full ride for cheerleading. I don't know how I made the team. God placed me there, but I did. And I only did it to pay for my school. But, because I could tumble, right? I didn't have the stunting very well, but I picked it up. So I competed there at UK from 2013 to 2017. And I wanted to go to dental school. And again, like just kind of fell through, it didn't work out. But from there, I graduated last year with kinesiology and biomechanics, so how the body works. And again, I was intrigued by all of the stuff that I had gone through. And I didn't know what it was. I graduated and I knew I had 6 months to start paying back my debt, and I was like, oh, that's scary. And so then I get a call one day that Premier Athletics in Lexington, Kentucky had a women's gymnastics team, and that they were wanting to find a male to spot. And I was like, great, I'll take the job. So I did. Well, like 4 months into my employment, they had closed their doors, and I was like, I just got here, and they closed. And so then from there, I got another job offer in Versailles, Kentucky, and I coached there for about a month. And then I got another call from Legacy All Sports. So I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with them, but I think it is the largest program besides Champions in Kentucky. And they were like, we have a full-time position for you. Like, we heard about you and we want you. And I was like, okay. It didn't make sense. It was really awkward. And so I went in for the interview and I took the job as a head coach coaching optional gymnastics. And so I spotted all the big release moves with all of these kids and just kind of actively built that program up. And I had some personal issues with my family go down, and so I had to quit. And I was without a job for 4 months, back in October, so it was like 4.5, 5 months. And I got a call from a lady in Hendersonville that there was a job offer here in Nashville, and I was like, I'll do anything to get a job. And I thought it was going to be in this environment and stuff like that. And so I packed a U-Haul up in 2 days, and I moved my life to Tennessee. And that's how I got here. And I get down here, and it was the complete opposite of what I wanted to do. And so that's kind of how I found him, and this is where we're at. So hopefully that kind of explains a little bit of it, but just kind of following God's baptisms. I think that's about it. Nothing too crazy.
question.
These people are like, where did he come from? Like,
I'll tell you a little bit, okay? What my plans are, okay? He and Amy are going to take over the upper levels of the program. I'm going to drop back down and start giving them and feeding them the lower levels. So I'm going to start back down into the level 2s. I'll probably be coaching with them on the level 3s and up. Okay. You notice this year we've had Jacob part-time and Amy and I full-time. Well, now there'll be 3 full-time coaches. Okay. But part of my duties are going to be moving back down, working with pre-team, and trying to get a better feeder program for the gymnastics. Okay. So Rob and Amy are going to take over basically the entire gymnastics team. I'm going to be their assistant as I work through levels 3 to pre-team and down and trying to train the rec program so they can feed us kids better. Okay. Now I know that some of the kids are going to think like, oh, Bob, you're leaving us. No, I'm not. I'm changing positions. Okay. I'll still be in the gym. I'll probably be in the gym with a walker. Okay. And a cane. So his responsibility with Amy is basically run the whole program. And if you heard him talk, he talked about a degree or emphasis in biomechanics and kinesiology. And if you know gymnastics, you know that that's entirely what this thing is about. So he has a good eye for movement. He has a good ability to articulate things. People who have good hearing can probably hear him. Okay? And if you know that that doesn't count me, so that's the intent on having him take over that part of the group.
I guess I could add to this too. So being in gymnastics all my life, I've watched different coaches interact with kids, and I've seen a lot of coaches outside of gymnastics and other sports and stuff like that. And what I noticed is injury prevention. A lot of coaches nowadays don't care. They're not actively looking for those, like, the things to prevent injuries. So my biggest thing is if I walk into a gym and I like see an ankle brace or a knee brace or a wrist brace, I know there's something wrong. Because like, I'm not so much worried about the injury there, I'm worried about the injury below and above that. And what was his name? Ian. So by having Ian here as he's a PT, right? Yeah, so by having him here, that speaks volumes to me because it means that like these athletes will be safe. Because me personally, I won't let an athlete just chuck a skill. To me, that it's just, I don't know, it's a risk, and I want to prolong any injury. Like that's my biggest thing. So my thing is like safety for one, and then two, I was always taught stability, mobility, and flexibility. So I look for those 3 things, and a lot of us are kind of like, I don't know what that is. But there's just like little key things that come into all of this big picture, and I've just learned over the years to look for the little small things, so I can kind of give kids things a little bit quicker. And so a lot of days now, like everything's so expensive, right? And so I'm trying to find a way to make it as fast as possible without skipping things. Because if you skip things, what happens is like they get to a point in their gymnastics career and then they have to regress. And like I never want them to regress, I want them to progress, right? And so I was telling them today, so if you ask them tonight, like what did Coach Robb teach you, they'll tell you those words. They'll be like, he taught me to progress, never to regress. And so those are the things that I look for. So I always do like monthly like reports, and I always keep like, I'm very detailed, I keep a lot of notes on like good notes on kids and like what they're doing, if they have an injury this day and stuff like that, so I can fill the parent in. I feel like communication with like the parents themselves is very big in gymnastics, and a lot of times some gyms are like no. So I'm an open book. So if you guys have any questions for me, just I know it's kind of weird that I'm just here. So, yeah.
How do you handle fear issues?
Yeah. So I have to make that athlete feel as comfortable as possible, like on whatever like event we're on. I was always taught to fall first, and then to like fall safely. So I was actually doing it today. We just didn't have time. So I'll make a lot of kids, if you notice, Tessa today when she was doing the vault throw. What was the first thing that she put back? Did you guys notice anything? She put her bottom back. So when she went to go vault, she was like this. So her bottom was out. So I was telling the kids that I'm very science-based. So UK is a research school, and so that's why I took this so seriously. But how the human body works is your brain sends signals all the way down your body. And so the easiest way I can tell the kids is that if everything's going vertical in gymnastics, now diving they go down, correct? Like they're going upside down, but we have to land on our feet. So if an athlete is their brain is going through here, right? It's sending signals straight down to your toes. If they break at the hips, what happens is it goes to here and it stops. So a lot of kids get, and they freak out, right? So I have to teach them to engage their core, to squeeze this, and to fall first so they know how to squeeze, and then I can get them through that. Does that make sense?
Sort
That's
of.
a lot, but I'm sorry.
Sort of. Well, like you have a lot of girls who go into level 5 that are afraid of the flyaway, so they won't do anything.
Yeah, so I was
Or giants,
I was
or back
fortunate enough
handsprings.
To be around a lot of very detailed coaching, especially at Legacy All Sports. Every single kid did the exact same drills over and over and over again. And the only way we would spot them in the dismount is if they were like throwing their head back or something like that. But if I could verbally teach an athlete how to do something and know they can hold a shape, there's no reason that they should be scared because they've done the drills. I always tell them drills get you skills. So ask them that, I'd be like, what was the rhyme that Mr. Robb said? And they'll say, be like, drills get you what? And they'll say drills get you skills. Because that's what we do. We do the drill hundreds of times to get that skill. So I said earlier, if they chuck a skill, they're not prepared for that skill. Does that make sense? So I'm not even thinking about the now, I'm thinking about the future of like their gymnastics career and how I can obtain like a smooth path without hitting like a roadblock or like an injury. So I've never been injured my entire life, like ever. The only injury I've ever had was my nose, and it was spotting a girl 2 years ago on bars. Yeah, and she like peeled off and then just hit me in the face. So other than that, yeah, it's all about how we can just build as a program and build those athletes up. Because another thing is confidence, like their self-confidence. If they have any self-doubt, like that's kind of hard to us. As a coach, I have to be able to have that athlete come in here 4 or 5 days a week and train all those hours after going to school all day long. And then they're going to be tired, their bodies are changing, their hormones, like I get it, like I've been through it now. So there's just like little things that I've just learned along the way. I don't know, it's where I come from. I'm very young, and people tell me, they're like, when did you learn all of that? And I was like, I just wanted to learn. Like, that's all I wanted to do, because I love this sport so much, and it's advancing so quickly, that like, how do we keep up? It's almost like we're playing catch up, right? So my goal is to get your athlete from point A to point B as quickly as possible with the correct technique without cheating and skipping. Because I'm telling you right now, you're gonna save thousands of dollars. Like if your daughter goes and
I don't need
quits.
to know that.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
Most of them already have.
Yeah. I'm always praised on like my technique that I give athletes, and they're always like, oh, like he's super technical and stuff like that. And if I had a son or daughter, I would want to know that a coach was very technical, because I knew that they'd be safe. They're getting the good technique, like they're getting their money's worth, right? But there's some other things just that have evolved outside of gymnastics, and I just don't agree with it. I don't think it's fair that they can cheat and try to chuck a skill, because then you're putting that athlete at a higher risk for injury, and then they're out for the rest of the season, or they're out the next season, or they never come back, and that's not fair to that athlete. So I just really strive on taking the time to break it down, and if an athlete never understands, like as a coach, it's my job. I have to find a way to make it work, and if I can't, we come together as a team, a parent, a coach, and we all figure out a way to make that athlete successful, right? I'm getting goosebumps, because I never want an athlete to give up like I did. It's the worst feeling ever. Because I wanted to, what was his name? The PT, what's his name? Ian. He was a college gymnast, and that's what I saw in my head. Like, he got to experience that, and I didn't. Granted, I was a college athlete, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. So, Tessa, for instance, like, I want to see her go somewhere so bad. Like, I want to like help her get to that school that she wants to go to and compete in. Whatever stage she wants to do, right? And just watch her shine and do that, because I didn't get to do that. So that's why I'm coach. Because I never got that feeling. So now I'm not gonna say I'm living through athletes. That's kind of weird. But you'll see me in the gym. This does not feel like work to me. It flies by. That's about it. I just like doing it. I guess if you like something that you do, it's not work, right? Y'all are kind of like. Sorry.
He's young, not married, no kids. You know, you can do that.
I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And granted, like I found like just something that I like to do. My twin brother still has no idea what he wants to do. So I'm like, okay, we're just living life, but that's how that goes. So.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Girls team only?
As a
Girls team only?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, Jacob is going to go back over to the boys program and help build up the base of the boys program because Colin will be leaving at the end of the summer in college. So we need to bring him back over. He's going to start working the boys program.
Yeah, so at Legacy, I coach both levels, men's and women's, because they had that there in that one gym. But I thought about it and I was like, you know, I want to devote my time because it was intriguing to me that the women's, like, in women's gymnastics, like, they do different events than males, right? So I was like, I'm not going to go out there and do those events, but in my head, I wanted to figure out how I could get an athlete to do something like all of these elite stunts or elite skills on like a balance beam. I've never done a balance beam, but how in my mind could I make that athlete do that verbally? How could I tell them or spot them, right? And so what I did was I took interest. It's a long story, but I didn't go out with my friends. I didn't do any of that. I stayed inside and I watched videos on how to train these athletes at Legacy and built them up because I was like, I just had this passion of just dominating Region 5 because it's a hard region and that's what I did. And so, I mean, I can coach both. I'm like credentialed to coach both, but I think for this gym, just 6 through 10 for now, and then maybe go from there.
Now, after he left, I've heard of Legacy, and I've seen Legacy compete. So I looked up the Kentucky State option league the same weekend of ours, and go ahead and look up online and meet scores online, and you'll see a Legacy. If they're not first, second, or third, they're always up in the top. And their team, there's 400 kids on team, okay? So they have a lot of coaches, big team, 2,800 kids in the rec program. Okay, the gym is 88,000 square feet, so it's 2.5 times the size of our Hendersonville gym. Okay, so it's a well-run. Well, I can't say that. It's a very big program. It must be well-run to have that many people in there. Okay, so you know.
Like I was competing for a job with people who've been coaching in the industry for like 20 plus years, and that's, I guess, with that I've learned a lot more. I like to. Someone once told me that I couldn't do something. It kind of stuck with me, and I just don't like when people doubt me because I work super hard. But with that, someone said, start hanging around people who fit your future, not your past. And so I was like, okay. So that's exactly what I did. I started hanging around people who have been in the industry and they're wiser and have more knowledge than I do. Like, I mean, I'm always learning. If I don't learn something new every single day, I'm regressing in my head. Like, I need to learn something every single day. So tonight when I go home, I'm gonna get online and like look at the video of what I could do for Tessa.
You had a question.
Seriously, like, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
What sort of schedule are you looking at for the optional girls?
Ooh.
Actual
You-
practice
talking to
schedule.
me or him?
Him, because he'll be the one doing
Well, him
the
and Amy are
program.
gonna be working
Yeah,
on
so I
Yeah, I
came
mean-
in at a really awkward part of the season because like they just got done, right? And then there's spring break next week. Is that correct?
Well,
Yes.
I just made up the April calendar, and we're not changing it. We can't
Okay.
change anything until summer.
Okay.
We can't bring young kids up because they're into carpools and things like that.
Well,
So
one
team
thing I'm
tryouts
thinking
are
is like
in April.
Saturdays.
And team tryouts, there's team cheer tryouts the same day as the banquet. And the banquet 18th?
Yes,
Yes. So at that point, we'll know how many kids are going to be coming up into pre-team and where we're headed with that. Okay. But at this point, I just made the calendar up and it's the exact same as what we're doing.
Okay, so we're going to continue Saturday practices.
Yeah.
Okay.
I spoke with Amy too, and she said after spring break, because everyone's spring break is different in this area. It's but it's next week's spring break, correct? And
Yes.
then when she gets back, that day that she gets back, we're gonna meet up, and then we'll kind of go from there. And so that I have a lot of ideas in my head of what I want to do to help students. But what I need from the parents the most is just encouragement. A lot of people think that moving to gym, they're like gym hoppers, and I don't strive like to do that. Like that's not me as a person. That's not my integrity or character. I just want what's best for the athletes and to be in a setting that I like. So if you guys ever just hear anything, you can just help me just like build us up at the Masters because I just love gymnastics. That's all I can really say. Really. Yes. Yeah.
What's the structure at practice gonna look like?
Yeah. So the way that I want to do it is with my background and the way that everything is starting to advance in gymnastics. Those athletes have to be so like. They have to be able to like withhold their body weight, and if they're not strong enough to do that, then they are regressing, right? So, well, I don't know how they do it now. How do you structure their practice? I haven't even seen their practice yet because I just got here. What
Well,
are they doing?
there's a bunch of things that are going to change. Ian, Jacob, and Amy met this morning at the Hendersonville gym, okay, to go over and have Ian tell them what they need to do to create strength and conditioning right now. We try to get a 12-month program so we can figure out where they need to be, try and get rid of the injuries and stuff that these kids have had. So Ian was guiding the instructors on that. He has not met with Amy after, but him and Amy and Ian are going to get together and come up with a program. And she's already asked me for different equipment that I have to buy and stuff like that. So I'm going to start doing that. So they're going to be churning up with the whole thing.
I made fitness program design, so I'm a personal trainer as well. So a lot of this comes down to conditioning. If an athlete is not strong enough, like I said, to hold their body weight, it's a limiting factor for them, and it puts them at a higher risk for injury. So, like tonight, this sounds blunt and very rude, but that's not how I'm coming off. If an athlete cannot withhold their body weight, I made every single athlete, every single one that I worked with today did the exact same thing over on the bars. And what I found is, I know already who can do something and who can't, just by the way that they do things. But I don't want to say that in front of those athletes, right? Because like I just want them to all build together. So once we get going with this program that I have in my head, that I've created for each, literally in my head I can create one for each athlete and go from there. But with that, gosh, there's so much. But it's hard to explain because when do you start your season? Like when do they start? Yeah.
There's really no conditioning until preteen.
Okay.
Once they start at preteen, we don't have anything in the program whatsoever.
Okay.
So it's preteen when they start.
So okay, so they will always come into the gym and they will always do a preconditioning, a stretch, a light warm up, and then they'll do their thing. That was kind of cool. So we might have to talk about some
Specifics about what you can't ask him to go through specifics because he has not sat down with anything. This is Friday. He was hired Wednesday. Okay. This is his first day on the job.
Wow.
Okay.
My question is more for how many coaches? You said we have 3 full-time coaches, but Jacob is going back to boys. So we have Robb, Amy, and okay, but you're going to work primarily with.
Well, if you remember what we had, Odd is not going to be part of the team coaches.
Okay.
Odd is going to the cheerleader.
Okay.
So whatever Odd did with the other two is going to be me, and I'm also going to work for free. And whatever they need during that time too. Okay. Now from the conditioning stuff that he's going to set up with Amy, I'll just sit there and coach them with all they're doing.
And my question was more for, in the past, we've had one coach, once a week, that could work with the girls on the name, like on spotting events.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you're talking about like a night coach?
I mean, are we going to get coach or?
No, I'm wanting to know. Yeah, like
I can
who's
get
coaching
that.
ball, who's coaching bars. What is that structure going to be like for the girls?
Well, we're going to figure that out. I mean, right now, I told him he's basically going to do everything I have done. He's going to tumble the kids, vault the kids, and pull them out. Okay? We're still going to use Kendra. Kendra has said she can give us 2 days in the fall consistently, whereas this year, you know, when Tony left, we were filling in with Kendra 1 day a week. We were filling with Jacob several days a week. When the boys had it, we need something, Jacob would stay with them. So we were doing everything we can with the coaches. Okay. My theory was I'd rather be short-staffed than poorly staffed. Okay? So yeah, there was times the kids were working out a sheet of paper themselves. I hope that never happens.
I'll jump in here with that. Sorry. There's a lot going through my head today because I'm just like looking over here. My biggest thing is consistency. Okay, so I run my business. I have a business on the side, and I know how important it is to have someone show up to your business, right? I understand. Okay. I just moved to Gallatin, and we're in Gallatin now. Sorry, no, we were at the Hendersonville gym.
Gallatin.
Yeah. Okay.
He lives right down the road.
I live like a mile from here, so I'm right here. But like you said, a lot of times you can't depend on people who have children or who have other priorities, right? And as a business owner, I would want someone that's dependable and punctual and consistent and stuff like that. And all of those things that I learned in gymnastics is just that. And so what you can get from me is that consistency. Like, I will always be on time. I will always be here. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. Here's what I'm saying. I just do my life too.
He literally sat in my office, and I said to him, I said, if I'm going to give you, to me, the most important part of my program, for me personally as an individual, I want to feel some commitment, because how many programs have a person walk in and say, I'm giving you the crown jewels of the team? It doesn't ever happen. Well, it's happening now, okay? He said, I'll literally sign a 2-year contract right now, okay? So he's committed, okay? He's going to be here, he's going to do his job, okay?
I want to see how far I can get these athletes.
He voiced to me, I'll interrupt him, he voiced to me, like every coach at that age, and I did the same thing when I first wanted. I wanted to have a kid who could take through elite program. And in 1983, I found that kid, okay? And she learned everything I knew within like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So I had to go back and study gymnastics, and by the time I was done with her in 1984 and 1985, we were going to clinics in Waco, Texas and things because she was that good. Okay, and I was chasing her to try and learn more gymnastics because she was challenging me every day she walked in the gym. She held national strength records. She was a national champion at the age of 12. She ended up getting a full ride scholarship at the University of North Carolina. And if you want to look at that, look up Amanda Mitchell. And her start was with me when she was 7.5 years old. And it's going to take getting kids in there that are 7.5, 8, 9 years old and carry them through to the end. Okay? So, he's going to come pick up the pieces, be very you saw that he's very technical, very thorough. Okay, he's going to work on that to try and bring technique back into the program. And honestly, that exuberance that a young person, not an old person, has to be motivated. Okay, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to see what he can do with these kids, and kind of found out where I am and what I'm doing.
My biggest thing is like trust as well. Like, those athletes have to trust me. It's not gonna happen today. It's not gonna happen tomorrow. Not even a month. But over time, if they just pick up on, like, you'll see your child. You'll see their body start to get a little bit tighter, and like everything will look a little bit crisper. And like you'll see them compete. Like tomorrow, I told those athletes on bars, I was like, I want you to start like this because all the coaches that I was coaching with at Legacy are all judges in Kentucky. So if you can imagine being the youngest one and then having to like compete with a USAG judge all the way from levels 1 through 10, and just doing all of that, I had to learn. So like they're like, Rob, you need to look for this, this, and this, and I was like, okay. So I have all these notes, and it's crazy, but that's for another day. But yeah.
I have a question. So like you're talking about technique and stuff. Like, is there a plan to start that at earlier levels? Because it seems like that's important that you have that technique early before you get to level 6.
Yeah.
And
That's why I'm going to the lower levels.
Okay, but like I heard he's and that's so. Hannah, I heard 6 and up, and then I heard 3 and 2 in preteen. But like, what about?
I think we're all working. We're gonna work
5?
together to build. Like, I'm gonna give all of my background as well into what I think, and then as a team, we will all work together to mesh what we want as the master's program technique-wise. Like, that's how this works. So like, over the summer we have summer training, right? So if we all work together, like just because he's coaching those lower levels doesn't mean that we can't, as a team, get together and fundamentally like build a program of what we want. Like there's probably like the master's way of training things, correct? The way that we do things, like, it's always actively changing for better technique. So does that make sense?
We've talked about this. If we're not evolving and changing with the times, we're going backwards.
Yeah.
I think our question was who's going to be responsible for level 4.
Yeah, it just seemed like that 4 and 5 got kind of left out. We were talking about 6 and 10 and 3 and preteen.
I can coach literally like levels 6 through 10, and then halfway through, this is kind of personal, but there was an issue with a lady who tore it. She was a coach at Legacy, and she tore her Achilles, and I had to step up and coach levels 3, 4, and 5. So this past season, I coached levels 3, 4, 5, and 6, and didn't get to coach what I wanted to coach, and that's okay. But that's why when I came in today, I could go to every event and coach them, just because I just had to do that. So I had to pick up the dirty pieces or the dirty work and put the pieces back together at this awkward moment in time, and it was a lot of work on my part, and I was never, I guess, compensated for that, and it's okay, it's personal, but I worked super hard, so 10 till 8. Are we doing good then?
Just want to make sure we don't go overtime.
So I know there's probably a lot of moving pieces, and you guys are like, what's going on? But I promise you guys, it'll all fall into place. I promise you. Like, I care so much about like these athletes, and I don't even know them yet. I just want to see them build, and it's weird because I can like walk in here, and there's a lot of open space on all of these walls, and what I can see in my head is putting a school there, like all over the place, and seeing how many athletes I can, like, and I'm getting goosebumps because I never got to go, and seeing how many athletes I can get if they're committed enough to go to a school and do college gymnastics, to see where I can take them, because I mean, everyone wants an education. Super expensive, but
because of his age, he's well versed in social media and all that stuff, and I'm not. I don't even know. You know that I don't even look at Facebook, okay?
Are you gonna join the parents' Facebook page?
oh, I can run it if you want. Yeah.
I'll run it.
In my business,
In fact, the program that he came for recruited him because of his social media, ability.
that's how they found me, was because of social media. So I'm like a recruiter for my business, so I'm actively out on social media doing stuff.
So to us, it's just a little icing on the cake. So we'll get into that too. I'm recruiting him for gymnastics.
Well, we're excited to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know it's a lot of information, but I just know that your athlete will progress. Like we never want to see them regress. Okay. My biggest thing too is like they have to come home and tell you what they want. If they can't do that, I did my job wrong. Every single day. Okay. So just be excited and be like, hey, what did Coach Robb teach you today? Or what did Coach, whoever it may be, and see what they say. Because like you always want to see your son or daughter like excited about what they're doing. I remember my mom would do that when I was a kid, and I wish I just had that back because I was like, oh. But yeah.
Very positive individual. No doubt about that. I'm going to ask you to go down there in front of the kids.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Okay. The only thing I'll say on behalf of him, okay, is that he had an extremely rough, painful time financially getting down here, and he's in, way over his head. Okay. So, if any of you want to do private lessons, do it with him. Okay. He's available all day. He's not working for me. Yesterday, he drove 2 hours down the road to let some guy's dog out and walk the dog and water the dog, and then 2 hours back. That's how desperate he is to get some money. Okay. So, on behalf of him,
He does it for me.
I said, I wonder if he likes squid games.
I know he wouldn't say this, but he does. I told him that, people who want to do private lessons in the program, if they want to do it. I am also going to get the 4 girls who are going to regionals and try to have some special training things for them. Okay? But if you want to set up any of those lessons, get it going with him. Get him so he can put some food on the table. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.